What is up, everyone? Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome in to another edition of the original Call to Post here on the network. We break down everything thoroughbred, North American thoroughbred horse racing has to offer. With me, as always, to help me break it down is my friend and co-host, Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Sun's out in Southern California, which is more than I can say for what's going on at Churchill Downs right now,
Yep.
because it is cloudy, wet, and that doesn't set for a good track tomorrow that we'll talk about.
Yeah, it's we are recording here Thursday, the 2nd of May. Less than 24 hours away from the Kentucky Oaks getting rolling. And of course, Saturday, that first Saturday in May. If you're a horse racing fan, May only means one thing, and it means Derby time. And really the Triple Crown is kind of right around the corner, at least the chase for it. And that's going to be our focus. The 2 days at Churchill, we were talking, both myself and Raider Jim, about how how is any other track running? With the logistics of the jockeys and trainers, but the horses, seems like all the horses in the world have converged on Churchill for this weekend. We're going to break down not just the Oaks and the Derby, but another 11 races. I think it's all boiled down to. And folks, guess what? I had to cut the grade threes as well. So a lot of fantastic racing that's going to be coming up on Friday and Saturday. And, like I said, we always kind of aim for a 60 to 90-minute podcast for the sake of time. Yeah, we had to cut those grade threes out, but keep an eye on those throughout the day. But with that being said, let's dive right in to the Friday card at Churchill. Obviously, out in Kentucky, this is considered Oaks Day. We will get to that momentarily. We're going to go chronologically. So we're going to start out at Churchill. Race 5, it's going to be the Grade 1. You're going to get used to hearing that. Grade 1 La Troyenne Stakes. This is for 4-year-old and up fillies. We are going 1.16 miles on the dirt. The payout here will be a cool even $1 million. Another thing you should get used to. Lots of money being passed out to the owners and trainers, and hopefully to you as well. But with that being said, Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? Race 5, Churchill Downs on Friday, the Grade 1 La Troyenne Stakes.
Yeah, most, 6 and 7 figure purses out there, and it's only money, folks. So the more you bet, the better they like it over there to help subsidize some of the expenses and the costs. One of the smaller fields for the 2 days, only 7 entries on this one, but it's going to be a fast race, a great race. The top favorites for me, the only thing I can say about my top two picks are the layoffs concern me. My number one favorite is everybody's number one favorite, number 4, Idiomatic. Brad Cox, Florent Giroux has been laid off for 181 days. However, 2023, 2024, pretty much running perfect. In 2023, especially 12 times out of the gate, 9 times in the winner's circle, placed 1 time, showed twice, never finished out of the money. I mean, and includes the Breeders' Cup Longines Distaff for $2.45 million. So this is the horse to beat. I think right now the early line is 6-5. Look for that to drop even more. 4-5 won't surprise me. Pretty mischievous. Number 5 after that. That's a layoff on that horse. 223 days. Tyler Gaffalone is going to be riding that horse. And again, the last 4 races, all grade 1s, has hit the winner's circle 3 times. So we'll see what happens, but those are the 2 to beat in my eyes. Now, according to the early figures, the number 3 horse should be, or the number 6 horse, the 3rd pick overall should be Zajera. Not my 3rd pick overall. My 3rd pick overall is the number 3 horse, Free Like a Girl. You're going to get more value for that right now at 15 to 1. This horse is quick and fast and performs well. Little bit of a step up in grading for this race, but still, Zagara has had a little bit of issues, hasn't been able to close real well in some of the races, and is going to have a lot to prove here. Not to say Zagara can't do it. I just think Free Like a Girl is the better choice. Would love to bet on that West Coast favorite, Dorth Vader, but Dorth Vader just seems to be having a few issues. Dropped him down in a class for a couple races, tried to bring him back up, and just doesn't seem to have the spark. So Darth Vader, as much as I would like to have tell you, keep an eye on him, I don't think there's any chance that he's going to threaten any of the pack.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This is an interesting matchup because you have Idiomatic, who, as you talked about, won the Breeders' Cup Distaff, essentially the top female filly horse breeder, filly or mare, however you want to break it down, the top female horse last year on the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and then you have Pretty Mischievous, who won the Kentucky Oaks last year. Of course, we'll get to this year's Kentucky Oaks. So it's kind of like the up and coming Pretty Mischievous going up against Idiomatic. This will be the first time these two horses have ran against each other. But I agree with you. I give the edge to Idiomatic, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. The first thing that jumped out to me was, a November run from Idiomatic. That's a long layoff, and even longer for Pretty Mischievous. You got to go all the way back to last September to see Pretty Mischievous run. It was in the Cotillion, was the favorite, and kind of got put out by Ceiling Crusher in a bit of an upset. That horse went off at 2-1. So split your hairs there. I think for me, I'm always a big value pick. So I agree with you. I think we'll see Idiomatic closer to 4, maybe even 3-5. And if that happens, maybe you could get lucky and see Pretty Mischievous at 3-1, which I think would be incredible. Incredible value, I should say. Now, the one thing you do have to say with Pretty Mischievous, besides the layoff and other stuff like that, you're going to need to see those speed numbers increase. The best run for Pretty Mischievous over the last 6 has been a 96. While the last 5 for Idiomatic, 96 was its lowest. Has kind of lived in the low triple digits. So once again, just kind of splitting hairs, but that is how you have to split them. I'm right there with you with the 6 horse. 3-1, maybe if this gets up to 6-1, maybe it ends up on my ticket. But at 3-1, this is a horse that's trending in the wrong direction for me. They moved this horse onto the dirt last September at Churchill, ran a 98, looked incredible in an ungraded stakes race. They moved it up to a grade 2, looked great, but ran a 93, dropped it down to a grade 3, ran well as the heavy favorite, won that race, but once again, dropped down to a 90. Those numbers are not going to compete with the Idiomatics and the Pretty Mischievous. I did go a little on the opposite side. I do like Darth Vader here, and maybe it is that West Coast connections, if you will, but I do like Darth Vader. Obviously, the big part of this for me is the value side of it. You kind of brought up Free Like a Girl at 15-1, Darth Vader at 12-1. And this horse isn't technically falling on Star Wars Day. I tell you what, if Darth Vader was running on Star Wars Day, that would be the end. Run to the window and cash it. Just kidding. But I do like what this horse was able to put up in the Acorn at Belmont last June. Now, you want to talk about a layoff? Darth Vader hasn't ran since last August. So this is kind of like the layoff horses. I'm just going through right now. Free Like a Girl and Taxed. Okay, so the 1 through 3 have all ran this year. 4 through 7 are all going to make their season debut. Darth Vader having the longest layoff of them all. I really do think you're going to have to find some value outside of the 4 and the 5. Really any of them outside of the 6, just because I don't see value there. I think you could probably feel okay with. Going to take some deep dive to really get into it. Not big on Frosty O'Toole or Taxed. But I do like that 3 pick that you had as well, Free Like a Girl. But I do think this is kind of a 2-horse race. And we're just going to kind of determine whether or not the up-and-coming Pretty Mischievous can, dethrone Idiomatic, who as of right now is the best filly horse in the world, or at least the way it looks early on, at least going back to last year. So be very interesting there. Moving on to race number 7. This is going to be the grade 2 Ali Sheba. We are going 1.16 miles on the dirt. This is a for 4-year-olds and up. No classification here. You can have fillies or colts or geldings, or if you want to look at it. I think we have only male horses here, but 750,000 is the purse for those 4-year-olds and up. Raider Jim, I'll give you the honors. Who do you like in the grade 2 Ali Sheba?
Yeah, here we go again. I mean, some of the races you can't help but just look at the early morning favorites and say, who else would you pick? And that's kind of where I lay with this one also. The 3-horse First Mission, Florent Giroux, there's that name again. Brad Cox, there's that name again. Is going to be all over the place when it comes to the races on Friday and Saturday. But First Mission, the horse to beat, currently at 8-5. Then I like the outside horse, Trademark, at 6-1. Joel Rosario on that one. I think at 6-1, you A, have good value, and B, this horse is a runner, and this horse in this position is going to be good. Now, the other 6-1 horse is Money Supply, starting on the rail, and that's the issue. If Money Supply was in the middle of the track, I would feel more comfortable with him having a good race. But Gaffalone's going to really have to work hard. I don't know that the rail is the best draw for Money Supply. We'll see. I'm not going to be surprised if Money Supply finishes in the money, but not right now on my ticket. I will just keep my eyes on, see how the numbers move up and down. Tapit Trice, the 7-horse out of Kentucky. Irad Ortiz, Todd Pletcher. Actually, the second favorite, I should say, at 7-2. That horse, of course, is going to perform. I just think Trademark on the outside is going to be able to take advantage of that position. If you want a 4th horse for your ticket, number 5, Il Miracolo. That's a horse to watch for, and it's got a little better value on it at 10-1. You're going to do better on your ticket if you put that horse underneath. Thought about Tumbarumba. It should perform, but seems to be having trouble really living up to its expectations of late. So the 6-horse Tumbarumba, keep an eye on the numbers. At 8-1 right now, it's a good value. I'm going to be surprised if it goes off at 8-1. If it drops down to 10 or 12, I won't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. First Mission, it's hard to get away from that horse. Obviously, didn't run terribly well in the Pegasus. I think it went off just shy of 3-1, and finished in 9th. 21 lengths off the lead. Not ideal, but at the same time, when you talk about some of these big grade 1s, you kind of have to throw it out sometimes, and did bounce back in the Essex handicap. Obviously, unfortunately, it was a grade 3, so did have to deal with a little bit of a class drop. The biggest issue for me here, nothing to do with the horse, it's just the value. You talked about Brad Cox and Florent Giroux. 8-5. I think this horse probably going to go off closer to even money, maybe even lower than even money. So I'm looking elsewhere. And I landed as well, just like you. I really do like the 10-horse Trademark. I think, look, you look at the last 3 runs, you shake your head and wonder why this horse is at this level. But once again, It was in the Breeders' Cup, or excuse me, in the Pegasus, ran a 66, didn't run well. And then you go back to last October in the Fayetteville at Keeneland, did not run well either, ran only a 74. However, in the middle of those 2 runs was a run in the Clark, a grade 2 last year at Churchill. It was last November, ran a 102. So at the very least, you could sit there and say, look, Trademark hasn't looked its best over its past 3 runs. However, that run at Churchill, if they can replicate that, might be able to run down First Mission. And at 6-1, that's huge. Also, the other part of it, kind of a bit of a Churchill veteran. This will be its 7th run at Churchill, 4 wins and 1 place in that time. So this horse knows what it's like to run at Churchill. Once again, last time it did run at Churchill, probably its best race of its career. Also very, very big on Tapit Trice as well. The value though, at 7-2, I want to be a little bit higher. Give me 5-1 or higher, and I'm all in on Tapit Trice. I was going through my notes from the last time I talked about Tapit Trice, and I had to remind myself that I might be falling into the midnight bourbon trap with Tapit Trice, so I'm going to kind of cool myself on that. But the last course that I do want to talk about, this is a pure value pick, massive long shot, but we're looking for value in this race. And for me, it's the 4-horse. Call Me Fast. Flavian Pratt's going to be aboard. The numbers don't necessarily jump out lately. However, I do go back to last June at Churchill. This horse in the blame ran a 98. And once again, we'll probably even need to improve on that to get into the winner's circle here. I don't expect this horse to be in the winner's circle, but a nice play show bet at 20-1 might pay out more than the entire win play show ticket if First Mission comes in and pays out. So once again, total value pick there. But Call Me Fast, once again, this is a horse that likes Churchill, isn't a big time winner in terms of getting to the winner's circle. But if you look at where this horse runs, it's running in grade 2s and grade 3s. So you can't necessarily fault a horse that runs at that level, but hasn't been in the winner's circle. A lot of the grade 2 and grade 3 horses that win a lot at that level, guess what? They're running in grade 1s. So I do like the Call Me Fast as well. This is a big time. Outside of First Mission, you're really going to have to find some value. This is a quintessential wait till about 10 minutes before post, see where the line is, and then kind of go from there. I have 3 horses to keep an eye on, but it's all going to kind of be dependent on how the line ends up when it's all said and done, or at least ready to go. Moving on to race number 9. This is going to be the grade 2 8 bells stakes. We are going 7 furlongs on the dirt. These are for 3-year-old fillies. So you only get 1 chance to run in this 8 bells stakes. If you want to call it maybe a Kentucky Oaks light, you can do that. Very similar to what we're seeing, or at least a Kentucky Oaks sprint. Maybe that's the better way. I'll get this one started. The first horse that definitely jumps out to me, I don't know if this is the favorite, as I don't think it is actually, which makes me happy. It's going to be the 7 horse, Denim and Pearls. You got Brad Cox and Flavian Pratt. That's great. But best run of her career was at this distance. It was last time out in Keeneland. Now the track was fast, so you do have to kind of keep an eye on that. I don't know if we will. I actually, with the weather report, I highly doubt we're getting a fast track at Churchill on Friday, I should say. Might even be worse on Oaks Day in terms of the weather. Didn't check that. But going back to the Beaumont, it was back in April. It was in Keeneland, so we're still kind of in that same Kentucky area. And it ran in 98, and I thought it looked really, really good. And at 3-1, think there is some value there as long as it doesn't get any lower than that. And then I look to the inside. Impel is, I believe, the favorite at 5-2, another Brad Cox racehorse here. So very good chance we see Brad Cox in the winner's circle regardless. But Impel also with Giroux aboard. Last time out in the Ashland, ran very, very well. Lost out to Leslie Rose, and just FYI, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk heavily about those 2 horses in the Oaks. So I think that kind of shows you this is the best of the rest, if you will. Now, the only question I do have, first time running at this distance, did break its maiden at 6 furlongs. We're going 7, so maybe splitting hairs there. But the last 2 runs have been very good, but they have been at a mile plus. So just something to keep an eye on there. Only 4. This will only be its 4th race, excuse me. So a little bit of a lightly raced horse. Another lightly raced horse that I have right here. Big time long shot pick, but I really, really liked its debut back in February. The 2 horse, All Things Go. This horse last time out only ran a 78, didn't look fantastic, but I do think the blinkers may be something to keep an eye on, because we saw the debut, ran very well, went to 1:16 miles, did not run very well. According to the reports, got maybe a little distracted, hence the blinkers. And now we have an opportunity. This horse ran very well, broke its maiden kind of sprinting, or at least 1 turn. maybe gets back to it. I could see that at 12-1, might even be higher by the post time. Maybe keep an eye there on All Things Go. I do think you're going to look for a little bit of value here, and that's how I did to get outside of the box. Raider Jim, your thoughts on the grade 2 8 bells stakes?
Yeah, 8 bell steak and great minds think alike. I got to say, when I look at this one, though, um, some days you just wake up and you look in the mirror, you say, my name is Brad Cox, and today I'm going to have Laurent Giroux ride this horse, and that horse happens to be the favorite, but the second favorite is also my horse, and that horse is going to be ridden by Flavien Prat. Wow, it is. It's very good to be Brad Cox on many, many days. Like you, I think it's not going to be Impel. I've got Impel coming in second to Denim and Pearls. As I said with the previous race, this draw of the rail,
Yeah.
especially for Impel, is going to not play well for that horse. Possibly. Laurent Giroux going to have to work hard to make something happen. More than likely, because if you look at the horses that they say are going to come out of the gate fast and set the pace, it's the 6 horse, it's the 12 horse, it's the 8 horse, which means there's going to be a lot of action in front of Impel. So he's going to have to drop it back and then drop back over. He's going to have to do the Frogger thing and try to get up to the front of the pack. But if anybody can do it, it's going to be Florent Giroux on a horse like that. I just think that where Flavien is sitting on the back of Denim and Pearls in the 7th spot, no problem. Let's just go. Let's take it on the outside. To see Impel go wire to wire, even though not known as a very quick starter, especially in this field, I still wouldn't be surprised if he was able to make it happen. And then again, next horse I have, the 2 horse, All Things to Go. To me, points as the definitely a threat to finish in the money. Could even upset, and who knows, because it's that sloppy track. Maybe All Things Go ends up in the place position. We'll wait and see. If you want a 4th horse to drop in underneath on your ticket, she has struggled a bit since breaking her maiden. However, after breaking and then having 3, she went from 2nd to 3rd to 4th, and then finally came back and won a nice claiming race the last time out. Tanya Showers, the 10 horse, and at 8-1, you can't beat good value like that. And Tanya Showers, who knows? Maybe that's a good omen if it's going to be raining and a muddy track.
Yeah, there is a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but the 3 horses that I think are all going to be kind of fighting for the lead are, we didn't speak of, the 6 horse Esternia, just rolling through here my notes, Esternia, and then R Harper Rose, the 12 horse at 12-1, and there was another horse that I did see that
And I'm surprised neither one of us mentioned My Main Squeeze, currently at 6-1, but it's just I'm not feeling it. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers, if you the last time out, look, I'm a big believer in sometimes you do have to just throw, what are it's like the Olympic judges, right? Like you just throw out the top and the bottom and you find your mean. 73 last time out, that did kind of scare me away. But there wasn't a whole lot before that even, that really caught my eye. Luis Saez, definitely one to keep an eye on, but I don't know. I think it's just a interesting race in terms of how the favorites, or at least the horses that I think are going to compete, compared to the pace. I just wonder if those 3 horses, Do Gooder, Esternia, and R Harper Rose, I do wonder if maybe they set too fast of a pace. Because the horses that I talked about, they're going to want to run you down. And sometimes, you talked about Impel right on the rail. What happens if maybe it loses 2 or 3 feet in the beginning? That could be the difference. Trying to run down those horses at the wire, only going 7 furlongs. So the 8 bell stakes, very, very interesting. 600,000 purse. I don't think I had mentioned that. So just keep an eye on that. Second to last Friday race we'll be talking about. It is race number 10. It's going to be the grade 2 Edgewood Stakes. This is for 3-year-old fillies. We are going a mile and a mile and 16 on the turf. 600,000 is the payout here. Very similar to the last race we talked about. Only difference is we are going on the turf and we are going 2 full turns. Raider Jim, your thoughts on the Grade 2 Edgewood Stakes?
Yeah, again, keeping with that theme that I thought I'd throw in this time because I saw it on a couple programs I watched. Who's going to set the pace? Pace is going to be set by the 7 horse, the rail horse out of the first position, the 11 horse, and the 6 horse. Those are the horses that start out fast. Now, where do they fall when everybody crosses the finish line? Only one of them on my ticket. 7, 1, and 6 are not going to be considered. One thing I noticed, and this is probably one of the best examples and good time to bring it up. I don't know if it hit you when you were going through the different cards. There's 14 entries in this race, 14 entries. Only 3 entries are better than 10 to 1.
Yeah.
One of those is 8 to 1, and then it goes to 4 to 1, and I think our favorite is at 2 to 1.
Yep.
But the other 11 horses are all 10 to 1 or greater, all the way up to 30, 20, 30, 15, 15, 20. So, I don't know what your opinion is on how does that really play for making any money on the races unless you got a big bankroll and you're betting a lot of money on a race like this. I'll just give you my picks real quick, and then you can answer that question. I think the one to beat, though, is the favorite in this race. Hard to justify. Runs well all the time. A great post position on the 9. Again, just get out a little bit quick, or just get out within that second. If you've got 4 horses that are going to start out fast, be the 5th or 6th horse, and just hold your position, and then do the job after that. But you're going to have, again, now it's Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt. Flavian Pratt, that guy should be buying people dinner by the end of this weekend if he rides like he usually does. After that, it's going to be the 4-horse Buku, which is another one of those horses that's at 4 to 1. So 2 of the 3 horses, and then the 11 horse. The 11 horse is Way to Be Marie at 15 to 1. I think this horse, I believe this horse has a track in running well on bad tracks, slower tracks. So watch Way to Be Marie. The number 5 horse, which was the 8 to 1 Mo Fox Given. It's kind of been back and forth with Mo Fox Given. Has kind of not performed up to expectations in a couple of the races of late. But Way to Be Marie. So I've got 9, Hard to Justify, 4 Buku, 11 Way to Be Marie, 5 underneath if you want another horse to fill in, and that is Mo Fox Given.
Yeah, going back to the question you posed, it's very similar kind of to, what was it? It was the Pretty Mischievous versus Idiomatic that we talked about a few moments ago. It's kind of like that if that race had, because I think that race only had 7 entries, if I remember correctly. If that field was kind of like this one, because I do think it's between the 2 horses you have at the top of your ticket. And sometimes I do think we see certain horses maybe being put into, look, it is a $600,000 purse. And I don't know the exact breakdown, but for a lot of these horses, a 5th place finish, that might pay out the entire stud fee or the entire cost it was to buy the horse. And sometimes I call it purse chasing, or my dad used to, and I've kind of taken it. So you do kind of wonder if that is the case. But I also do think it's just the difference in class between the top 2 horses. And I think the odds makers really are kind of recognizing that. These races, it's very interesting to kind of see the tote board when it's all said and done. Who inflated, who deflated their numbers one way or another. But big fields like this with with such a heavy favorite or favorites, it's going to be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 or 2 50 to 1s that just get pretty much no money when it's all said and done. But I promise I didn't copy your work, but I have the exact same top 3. 9, 4, 11. Starting with now, it's interesting between the 4 and the 9. You got half brothers here, or excuse me, half sisters. I take that back. Justify was the sire for both of these horses. Justify is obviously, a top 5 sire, right now, and maybe over the last 5 to 10 years since it entered its stud phase. But those 2 horses have Those two horses have met before. It was actually last year at Santa Anita in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf. Hard to justify. Big reason why this horse is the favorite. Won that race. Unfortunately for Buchu, finished only 3 lengths off the lead. Finished 6th, but 3 lengths off the lead. That's enough for me to at least kind of perk my ears up and look, if Buchu can stay at 4-1, hey, maybe you put this horse and hope that it has a heck of a run, or maybe hard to justify does come back a bit, but it's not to be, the pun is intended here, but it's hard to justify not betting on this horse outside of the value side of it. At 2-1 morning line, I think you have to imagine that's going to get closer to even money, even possibly less than even money. Once again, Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt, you talked about that. Incredible jockey trainer combo. And yeah, way to be Marie. Last time out, it was an allowance race, and this is a massive step up. Not only its first graded stakes race, but it's really its first stakes race at all. Was 2-1 favorite in that allowance race last time out. Fairgrounds ran very well, ran an 89. Will need to improve on that. But to be fair, that 89 is a better run than Hard to Justify has had in any of its 3 runs. So at 15-1, I don't know if, and I understand the step up in class, things like that, but just the straight speed numbers, Way to Be Marie needs to be a lot slower of a number. But I'm fine with that. I'd love to see, even 6-1, I'd feel good with Way to Be Marie. But 15-1, I'm doing, cartwheels at that. But yeah, I'm right there with you, in 9, 4, 11, but I'm very confident in the 11 horse, coming in on the ticket somewhere. For me, a question of where. Now, I will throw one thing out there, since I did take a little bit of time talking about Way to Be Marie. If you do talk about Way to Be Marie, you also do have to talk about the 1 horse Pink Polka Dots, who actually beat Way to Be Marie in February. However, last time out for Pink Polka Dots, ran at Turf Park, I believe that's what that is. Ran an ungraded stakes race as the heavy favorite and finished 25 lengths off the lead. That was on our artificial turf, but I think that's a big reason why Pink Polka Dots is 20-1. But once again, I just wanted to bring that horse up just because I took so much time talking about Way to Be Marie. The reason why I'm giving Way to Be Marie the edge, because the horse has been much more consistent than Pink Polka Dots. So moving on to the Friday main event. It is the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks. This is, of course, for 3-year-old fillies. We are going 1 1/8 on the dirt. This is race number 11. And the purse, $1.5 million. We have at the moment 14 entries with 2 also eligible. So we are going to see more than likely 14 runners in this one. I'll give my thoughts first. Number 14 is the first horse that does jump out to me. Look, just FYI is here. I understand that it's the reigning champ at the 2-year-old level last year. Just FYI, it's only ran once this year. It was in Ashland. Lost out to Leslie's Rose, who ran a 95 at 4-1. I do wonder if that is a big reason. We do have the post position all the way out at 14. That's a long way to go. However, we're going 1 1/8. So I think you have a long enough, front stretch to get to where you want to be. And you also have the best jockey in the world with Irad Ortiz aboard as well. So sometimes when it comes to, this horse, wants to get out early, wants to get on the rail, but it's post position 14. But then you look at Irad Ortiz and go, you know what? I have faith that he's going to get this horse right where it needs to be. Now, just FYI, at 9-2, will definitely be in the conversation here. I look back and I go, a 79 in last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly to win. Very interesting there. But 79 will definitely have to improve on that. And I think this horse definitely has the ability to. Just don't know about the value. The other horse I have my eye on is the 8 horse Tarifa, currently 7-2, even closer of a closer number than Just FYI, but the speed numbers make this horse one you have to look at. Last time out in the Fairgrounds Oaks, 95, has won 4 of its 5 career races. Ironically, only lost Denim and Pearls, but that was last race. Anyways, Tarifa is a horse that you have to keep an eye on, mainly because of the speed, but also you look at that jockey trainer combo. I know we're beating the dead. Well, maybe that's not a great pun in this podcast, but we keep harping the same thing. Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt, fantastic jockey trainer combo. And finally, my kind of value pick here at 12-1 is number 12, Power Squeeze. You have the speed numbers that scream value. Last time out in that same race I talked about, with the Gulf Park Oaks, grade 2. This horse came off at 11-1, beat multiple horses in this race while posting a 92 buyer score. 12-1, big time value here, is on a 4 race win streak. However, only one of those was a graded stakes race. 2 of them ungraded stakes race, but you know, you're talking about the one of the biggest grade 1s for fillies in the world. Big step up, but I think there's plenty of value in the 12 horse Power Squeeze. Raider Jim, your thoughts on the grade 1 Kentucky Oaks?
Give me the horse in the middle. 8, Tarifa. I mean, again, there's a reason that horse is 7-2, 3.5-1. That's going to be great. I like it. The chances are there. The draw is great for the post position. Now, with that said, here's some of my other notes. And if people, I don't know if anybody listening to this would believe that we don't sit and talk about this stuff before you hit record.
I promise.
Because on my notes, here's what I've got. Leslie's Rose, because Leslie's Rose just beat Just FYI in the Ashland. The only thing I don't like is the draw of the post position for Leslie's Rose that far out at 14. That's not a good draw for that horse, especially on a muddy track.
Yeah.
I do like Irad Ortiz, but wow, you know, Mother Nature's involved here. So I do like Tarifa. I do like Leslie's Rose. I think Just FYI is really going to struggle, but I think the upset is going to be when the 12 horse Power Squeeze, who has already beaten the 11 horse, which is Ways and Means, which is currently at 5-1, but Power Squeeze ran a 92 buyer the last time out. This horse is a force to be reckoned with, as is another horse. And this is where I have to get tricky with my ticket. So we've got number 8, Tarifa. We've got number 14, Leslie's Rose, but I think Leslie's Rose is going to struggle. But I do like Power Squeeze to come in there. And I like the 5 horse, Torpedo Anna. Also ran a 91 buyer the last time out. And at 5-1, you got pretty good value there too. So give me 8, give me 5 and 12, and give me Leslie's Rose 14 underneath.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting.
That's going to be a race.
Yeah, and you know, obviously the Derby's always going to get the headlines. For me, the filly division has always been more intriguing to me. I don't think there's any specific rhyme or reason. It's just, it seems like the Oaks rolls around and we sit down and we get ready to roll. And by the time I hit record and by the time we finish it up, you look around and you go, I might be more excited for the Oaks than the Derby. And it's kind of the same thing on Breeders' Cup weekend. I feel like a lot of times I'm more excited for the Distaff than I am the Classic. But yeah, this race right here. Now, you talked about the muddy track. That's where the also eligibles do come in. I don't want to speak this into existence or anything like that, but if we are looking at maybe a wet, muddy track, we may see Leslie Rose say, you know what? I don't really want to start at the 14 post position in a torrential downpour. Let's pack up our stuff and see what's next on the calendar. Once again, I'm not trying to speak that into the universe, but I think you have a much better chance that we're going to have a muddy, sloppy track on Friday than Saturday, just the way the weather reports are showing here early on. So keep an eye on that. And just a heads up, the 2 also eligibles didn't really do anything for me. I will say Candied had a nice run in the Ashland. But that horse is going to be starting even further out than Leslie's Rose if that horse does get the call up. So, can't go too far there. But the Kentucky Oaks is going to be an incredible race, and hopefully Mother Nature allows, she gets what she needs to get done, but we allow that this race goes off without a hitch, and we have an opportunity to really kind of see the best horse win rather than the best wet horse win. But time to focus our attention on the Saturday showcase. Lots to get to here. Plenty of races, no grade 3s, only grade 1s and grade 2s on the card. For this one here on Saturday, we are going to start race 5. It is the grade 2 Twin Spires Turf Sprint Stakes. Everything you need to know is right there. We are going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. $600,000. This is going to be for 3-year-olds and up. Raider Jim, your thoughts? The grade 2 Twin Spires Turf Sprint Stakes.
Yeah, and you were correct about the weather. It's going to be worse on Friday than it is on Saturday. I think Saturday it's supposed to be completely stopped by the time they even hit race 1 at Churchill Downs. By the time they get towards the race we're talking about now, all the way through the Derby, probably going to be cool, going to be cloudy, but it's not supposed to be raining. Opposed to Friday, when there are time frames where it says 70% chance of rain, which would cover 3 or 4 races at the time frame that I looked at. So keep our fingers crossed that everybody stays safe on Friday for sure, and of course Saturday. But going on to race 5 here, what do we got? Who's going to set the pace? The 3-horse, the 9-horse, which is Coppola, Bad Beat Brian, the 11-horse, Mr. M, and then we also have the 1-horse, Candyman Rocket. Candyman Rocket at 30-1, fast out of the gate, but it's not going to be a factor at all in this race. Who's going to be the factor in this race? The current favorite at 3-2, the 4-horse, Motorious Pratt. I think that horse is definitely going to be the one, Motorious with Flavian Pratt. Also trained by Phil D'Amato, West Coast connections here. So I think they're didn't have a good run in the Breeders' Cup last year, but still is going to be the favorite and the one to be reckoned with this year. The 8-horse, Mischief Magic. Charlie Appleby's got one in there. And I remember this horse specifically because in 2022, when it ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, I didn't bet on this horse. This horse won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. And that's when I was really drawn to all those horses from across the pond after I'd watched them all go to the winner's circle. After that, we've got, I do like the 7-horse, Our Shot. At 10-1, good value and a good performer, has a lot of speed to it. Cogburn on the outside, normally at 8-1, I would look at Cogburn. I don't like the outside post for that horse on this race, but I do like the 10-horse Big Invasion with Joel Rosario in the saddle at 5-1. You got good value. So Motorious, even though it's only at 7-2 right now, that's definitely on my ticket with the 8-horse at 4-1, and that is Mischief Magic. Then we've got Big Invasion and Our Shot, and respectively, those are going off at 5-1. And I believe it was 5-1, and Our Shot is at 10-1.
Yeah, I'm right with you on Big Invasion. I actually have Big Invasion as my top horse in this one. Go back to last year at Santa Anita, the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. This horse came off at about just a little north of 12-1, and was a neck away from taking down Nobles in that race as a obviously heavy underdog. There ran a 102 when it was all said and done. His horse worst run, at least here in North America, was a 92. Unfortunately, it was last time out, where it lost to Coppola and Panther Island. Coppola is in this race. I believe Panther Island. Yeah, Panther Island is also eligible. So there's a chance they'll be looking at at least two horses that did beat him last time out. But I do go back to that turf sprint. And when it comes to these sprint races, this is where you want to find you're only going 5.5 furlongs. So a lot of crazy things can happen. So, those kind of, and at 5-1, you can't really call Big Invasion a long shot. But I do think there is plenty of value there. I do like Cogburn on the outside, but mainly because of the value. I understand, maybe I'm giving Irad Ortiz a little bit too much credit on that 14 post position. But I don't want to get away from this horse because of that, because I do think if any jockey in the world can kind of overcome that rough post position, it is going to be Irad Ortiz aboard Cogburn. Obviously, once this horse was moved to the turf, I think something kind of clicked. I don't know if it was for the horse or, that just how it wanted to run from the beginning. But 3 out of the last 4 runs have ended in the winner's circle since it switched to the turf. Last time out did end up falling, but it was its biggest test of the year, or of its career, I should say, in the turf sprint grade 2 at Kentucky Downs. Lost out to One Timer and Gear Jockey. I believe One Timer is going to be coming up here a little bit later. Gear Jockey maybe as well, but definitely One Timer. Anyways, Cogburn, definitely a horse at 8-1, I think is plenty of value here, but anything less than 6-1, I kind of take it off of my card. And the other horse I do have my eye on, I do have questions about whether or not the value will be there when it's all said and done. But Motorious out of Great Britain, Philip D'Amato and Flavien Prat, fantastic jockey trainer combo. We are going to see its season debut. So last time we did see Motorious was in the Breeders' Cup Sprint race that I've kind of talked about. That was the one Big Invasion impressed me with. This was a horse at 3-1, was the favorite, finished 4 lengths off the lead. 4 lengths in a sprint race is a lot. So that's kind of why this horse is kind of maybe tumbled down my list a bit, but it's 7-2. And those speed numbers going back to last year at Del Mar. Look at the Golden Flash handicap where this horse just ran away from everyone. Ran a 103. I definitely need to improve or to get back to that to be there. But at 7-2, I'm not sure the value will really pull out there. This is going to be an interesting race. I love the turf sprints just because they're so unpredictable. And thank goodness that we are hopefully going to be relatively dry by the time this race gets rolling by race 5. Moving on to race number 6. It is going to be the Grade 1 Derby City Distaff Stakes. And just a quick little reminder, if you hear a distaff, that is guaranteed to be the older horses or older female horses. So we are going to get 4-year-old and up fillies and mares going the purse here, going 7 furlongs, and the purse is 1 mile. We are on the dirt here. Raider Jim, your thoughts? The Grade 1 Derby City Distaff Stakes.
Yeah, the 2 favorites right now are the 7-horse Alva Star and number 10 Baba. Now, Alva Star is at 5-2 right now. Definitely the hands down favorite. Tyler Gaffalone is going to be riding that horse. And normally I would go against and probably say I think Baba's got a chance to pull the upset. However, Alva Star is a good horse out of the gate, a very fast breaker out of the gate. If he gets the jump on that field, everybody's going to be working to catch this horse. So I'm going to have to leave Alva Star as the favorite, who also gets into the winner's circle. But I think you will see Baba, the 10 horse on the outside, challenging all the way. After that, who's going to finish? Who do you want to put for your 3rd position? Switch it around and make it an interesting ticket. I like the 1 horse, 3 Witches at 8-1. Fantastic value. And there's that name again. Flavien Prat is going to be riding on 3 Witches. The other one I like is the 9 horse, Red Carpet Ready. Luis Saez at 4.5-1. Also not bad value. Not the best, but not bad at all. Did I say 9-2? It is 9-2. So there it is. It's Alva Star with that quick start and a more dry track than Friday. I think Alva Star is going to. Don't be surprised to see Alva Star wire on this one. Then it's going to be Baba, followed by 3 Witches, Red Carpet Ready. If you want a real long shot to watch the numbers and consider, look at the 4 horse Chi-Town Lady.
Yeah. 15-1. Very interesting there. Yeah. Oh, was in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint last year too, didn't?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
oh wow. 6 lengths off. It's a 46-1. That will play. Interesting. All right. Like that. Wesley Ward as well. You know, he loves his turf horses or his dirt horses. My side, pretty much almost, I don't want to say the exact same. But for me, Alva Star is the class of this field here, 2 for 2 this year, getting into the winner's circle. But only one of them was a graded stakes race, but it was a grade 1, the Madison, back at Keeneland just a month ago. So a very short layoff here for Alva Star. And then I have the same thoughts with Vava. This is kind of the rubber match. Alva Star has beaten Vava, and Vava has beaten Alva Star. The last 2 runs for Vava have come up against Alva Star. Vava took the Raven run, and then Alva Star took the Madison, both impressing. So it's kind of, maybe this is one where who has more value when post time rolls around. 2 long shots. You already hit one of them, and I'm a big fan of the 1 horse 3 Witches on the rail. This is a horse that can, it's not going to set the pace, but it will be on pace and will be able to close as well. I really do like the horses that are very balanced. You had a time form pace of 93, both early and late. You don't see that terribly often. But will still need to improve to get into the winner's circle. However, when I look at 3 Witches, it's kind of an underneath there. And another underneath to keep an eye on is the 2 horse, Olivia Darling. It's another value pick, ran very well in January, posted a 99. And I really do like the post position for Olivia Darling. I think, Olivia Darling's going to be chasing the pace. I think you brought up Alva Star as being the pace setter. It's just a question of whether or not, what does Olivia Darling, what does Junior Velasquez want to do with Darling? Because I think if Olivia Darling needs to go for the lead, I hate to say it, but she's not going to win this race. But if she's content staying 2 or 3 lengths off the lead, even then runs a perfect race, still might not be able to run down Alva Star. However, if Olivia Darling is staying kind of, measured 2 or 3 lengths off the lead, I think this horse has a very good shot of making it into the money, and currently at 10-1. And I don't think it's going to get terribly lower than that, maybe 8-1. But I think a lot of money is going to be going to the 2 horses I brought up to start with Vava and Alva Star. And I think 3 Witches and Olivia Darling, those numbers might get inflated. And that is good news for a value guy like me. But that is another race to keep an eye on, especially that tote board, only 1 turn at Churchill Downs. Moving on to race number 7. This is going to be the grade 2 Churchill Distaff Turf Mile Stakes. Pretty much tells you everything you need to know there besides the purse. But yeah, as we said, these are going to be for 4-year-old and up fillies and mares. We are going a mile on the turf. 750,000 is your payout here. I'll get this one started. First horse that definitely jumps out to me. My notes here, it says, what am I missing here? Because I'm very confused, and I'm worried that maybe I am missing something very important, and maybe Raider Jim, you can let me know. But the top horse I have here is the 7 horse, Evie Jets, but it's 6-1 on the morning line. So that's why I'm a little concerned. But last time out, this horse ran in the Fast Lady. It was a grade 1, didn't win, but was 4 lengths off of the winner, Gina Romantica. And in Italian, those are 2 horses that we've talked about multiple times on the podcast, in grade 1s and grade 2s, probably even Breeders' Cup races. And this horse was good enough at 20-1 in that grade 1 to win, or excuse me, to finish in the money, ran a 98, a career best. I do wonder if the odds makers just maybe think that was a little bit of a flash in the pan, or they're a little worried about, going from a horse that was 20-1, dropping it all the way down to maybe the favorite. So maybe I do understand that, but I love the value that EV Jets does provide. And then the others, I have the 3 horse, Chili Flag. So horse coming out of France. Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz. That is another fantastic jockey trainer combo. And the best part about this horse, it's found its form this year. Last year wasn't terrible, but wasn't running at this level. Wasn't running at a grade 1 level, was in the, low to mid to maybe high 80s. Well, this year, 2 for 2 in at least hitting over 90, I should say. Only 1 for 2 in the winner's circle. But last time out, hit a 94. And then going back to Pegasus weekend on the turf, ran a 92. So I think there's plenty of value there. 4-1, maybe you want to see that go a little bit higher. But the other horse, maybe this is kind of my long shot pick, is the 2-horse Walkathon. You have great value on a very, very consistent horse. Last 4 runs have been 90 plus. Has lost the Chili Flag, but only by a neck. That was back in March. But will need to improve to get into the winner's circle. But I do think this horse has enough speed and pace to contend for a in the money run. And at 10-1, that's all you're kind of looking for a horse like that. There are a lot of horses I kind of left on the table. I don't know. This is a really weird kind of morning line. I don't know. I'm not seeing what the odds makers are seeing. Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the grade 2 Churchill Distaff Turf Mile Stakes? Ooh, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, so this is my horse, or this is my race where I actually have a longer shot winning the race. And I also have a novelty ticket that I'm probably going to play. And again, it is just a novelty. But the horse I think that is going to come out and upset everybody, and I'll tell you why. Many, many years ago, and when we talk NFL, there was a time I mentioned this. I was sitting in the stadium at a San Diego State Aztec game when their starting running back, who had, they was getting national attention and everything, and he went down, he got hurt, and you just heard the air leave the stadium. Oh my gosh, what are the Aztecs going to do? There goes their running game. And they brought in this true freshman, and his name was Marshall Falk.
Mm.
And he just set the world on fire. And my point being is sometimes it's those that have only touched the ball once or twice, they can come out and all of a sudden when they get their chance, they step up and they prove they belong. So that story being my the basis for my decision. Number 6, Delahaye. 2 for 2 and 2 times to the winner's circle. Let me tell you, Tyler Gaffalone, Chad Brown, and at 8-1, there's the ticket, the horse to lead your ticket. After that, I've got the 1 horse, AG Bullet, Junior Alvarado on the rail at 5-1. This ticket for me, if I can hit on it, is going to have the most potential to earn money. And then I go with the more of the favorite, number 3, Chili Flag, Irad Ortiz and Chad Brown. I do have Heavenly Sunday in there as well, the 8-horse, Laurent Giroux, Brad Cox. You keep hearing these same names over and over again. But it's interesting because, like you, it's just like, I really can't say that I'm dead solid on this. So one of the last things I have on my notes is number 7, Evie Jets. Why not? Because I don't understand, like you, it's just like, I don't understand how this horse is just considered mediocrity in this field. But, again, they're professionals. We're not, or at least we're not getting paid to do this, and they are. But definitely Evie Jets. I'll keep my eye on those numbers for sure. My novelty ticket is on this race, and it's going to be a show ticket that's going to have the 3-horse, the 6-horse, the 11-horse. And that way, when all 3 of Chad Brown's horses finish in the money, I'm going to collect because they have to, he's got 3 good contenders. Number 11, Copus out of Great Britain, they brought that horse here for a reason, and that horse can compete. Horse is probably going to hang around and somehow end up in the Breeders' Cup come November. But that's the number 11 horse, Chad Brown's 3rd entry in the race.
I think so the jockey there of Copus, is that Frankie Dettori? And it's La Franco, right? That's why it's El Dettori?
Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
Just wanted, I figured I was like 90%. I'm pretty sure it's La Franco and he goes by Frankie. But maybe there was another Dettori floating around, but no, fair enough. Yeah, this is a
It's an
really,
interesting race.
it
Weird
is.
race.
It is. And like I said, I think what the favorite is 4-1, which I didn't even realize I had the favorite on my ticket, honestly. Um, but yeah, wide open. It's kind of the antithesis of the other races where we talked about, oh, there's only, what, two horses that are in the single digits to one. This one, it seems like everyone's hovering around, well, except for Ascendancy. Everyone's kind of hovering around, the tens to one there. So keep an eye there. The Churchill Distaff Turf Mile Stakes. Once again, it's that Philly division. I think it's just so wide open. You have a lot of really, really good horses going forward. So moving on to the race number 8. It is going to be for 3-year-olds. We're going a mile on the dirt. Interesting here with Churchill Downs mile. Only one turn. Very big backstretch. So just keep that in mind. Not the quintessential mile where you have 2 turns. But the purse here will be 600,000. And Raider Jim, what are your thoughts? The Pat Day Mile Stakes.
Yeah, I do not think there's going to be any upset in this race. I think it's going to be the 8-horse Top Connor. Jose Ortiz, the other Ortiz brother, is going to, he's been riding all day long in this too. At 5-2, Chad Brown's the trainer. I think they've got the great post position again. That, post position very important, especially when you've got this is a smaller field, but it's still 12 horses. So I think that Top Connor is going to do well. On the outside, I like both of the outside horses, 11 and 12. Lajos out of Kentucky with Edwin Maldonado on the saddle. Also like it because it's a Doug O'Neill horse. And Doug just knows what he's doing. And what a run that horse had not that long ago at Santa Anita. So watch Vlahos on that. Wouldn't be surprised if it finished, if it could steal the race. At 8-1, you've got great value. And then that 12 horse Nash, Florent Giroux, Brad Cox at 3-1. You can't go wrong with that either. If you're looking for that, just like I referred to the horse Delahaye, it's like everybody but Delahaye knows it's not supposed to win the race. Well, everybody but the number 7 horse, Houdet, doesn't think that Houdet should finish, in the money. Don't be surprised if Houdet doesn't pull an upset and crash the party.
Yeah, big jump up in class for Houdet. But
Big, yeah.
is 4 for 5 in its career, and it's only time it didn't make the winner's circle. Last time out, it finished second. But once again, 3 ungraded stakes races and an optional claiming outside of its maiden.
10-1 though, not bad.
Yeah. And that's a great spot too, at that 7, especially considering, because I'm like you, I have the 11 and the 12 near the top of my ticket. I have the 12 actually at the top of my ticket. I'm a little lukewarm on Top Connor. I don't really know why. Just kind of looking it over, last time out, I looked at it and I said, man, lost by 8 lengths. And I'm kind of looking at it now and I'm like, well, it was the Bluegrass who lost to Sierra Leone just a touch, epic ride. Who we're going to talk about in momentarily, especially with Sierra Leone. So maybe I'm kicking myself, might need to kind of reassess there. But I am all about Nash. I think Nash is the most consistent horse in this field. And last time out didn't run terribly well in an ungraded stakes race, only posted an 85, but still good enough to win, still good enough to beat a few of the horses that are actually going to be running in this race. But yeah, I do like Nash. I think that this horse is the class of the field. And once again, Florent Giroux, Brad Cox. I mean, Brad Cox might be able to buy Churchill by the end of the weekend if everything goes his way. He's looking like he's going to have a fantastic weekend. And Vlahos, my goodness, Santa Anita absolutely tore up the track in its maiden debut, putting up a 98. You don't see too many horses break their maiden and then take 3 months off or 2 months off and then go run on Derby Day. Obviously not in the Derby, but the Pat Day Mile Stakes. This is kind of like the, I don't want to say the Derby light, but it's a lot of these horses aspired to be running in the Derby, maybe didn't quite get there. The distance wasn't where the horse wanted to be. So they, they're going to be running at the mile length and woof, that's tough there. Another horse that I do want to bring up, bit of a long shot at 8-1 is the 5 horse. Now, first of all, everyone knows gray horses run faster. I don't know if it's a gray horse, but it says Seize the Gray, so I have to imagine I'm kind of a little tongue in cheek there on that one. But big part of it here, I really do obviously like the value at 8-1. The speed figures don't really jump out, but one thing that does jump out to me have been the workouts. I've really liked this horse's workouts. Been fast, and they've been consistent. You know, you're talking about pretty much every 2 days since it's got to Churchill, had a few workouts right away and has kind of slowed down. Dwayne Lucas obviously is a legend in the sport, and I would be remiss if, once again, I didn't bring up Star Wars Day. I mean, you got to bet on a Lucas on Star Wars Day. So Seize the Gray is definitely a horse to keep an eye on. This is a horse that's been running with the Sierra Leones, the Endlessleys, the West Saratogas of the world. Obviously hasn't made it into the winner's circle with those horses. If it did, it would be racing a little later in the day, but this Pat Day mile stakes, it's going to be interesting to see how all that goes. Be really interesting to see, as you said, Houday, how that horse runs, and Top Connor. Like I said, it might be time for me to have a little bit of a come to Jesus moment with that horse, but as of right now, I don't, not fully on the value there. But moving on to race.
If I may,
Yes,
I'd
please.
like to give a little credit where it's due, or we need to acknowledge for people who may be new or just not that familiar with former riders, former trainers, things like that. This is the Pat Day Mile Stakes. Pat Day, one of the greatest jockeys to ever mount a horse. He had 8,803 wins. Let me give you a little bit of his resume. In 1992, he won the Derby. He won the Preakness in 85, 90, 94, 95, and 96.
Goodness.
He won the Belmont Stakes in 89, 94, and 2000. He won the Breeders' Cup Classic in 84, 90, 98, and 99, the Breeders' Cup Distaff in 1986, 91, and 2001, BC Juvenile in 94 and 97, BC Juvenile for fillies 87 and 94, and the Breeders' Cup Turf in 1987. And that is just part of the reason he has a horse race named after him, a major stakes race named after him. There is also a statue at Churchill Downs dedicated commemorating Pat Day and the Pat Day Stakes.
Great call there. Yeah, definitely one of the best, if not the best jockey. At least, maybe the pre-2000s, mid-2000s type stuff
One
there.
of the modern day greats.
Yeah, very much so. And you talked about the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think you said, what, 84 all the way to 99? I mean, 15 years. And he had some between there too, but longevity. And I know a lot of jockeys do ride into their 50s and things like that, but doesn't mean that, it's normal for you to be winning 15 years, those big races kind of apart, if you will. But moving on to the grade, this will be race number 9. This is the grade 2 American Turf Stakes. We are going to be going 1 mile and 16 on the turf. This is for 3-year-olds. The purse will be 600,000. Raider Jim, your thoughts? The American Turf Stakes.
This is going to be a fast and fun race. Let me tell you. You've got the 5-horse from Great Britain, Legend of Time. Charlie Appleby and Frankie Delatorre at 7-2 are the favorites. Again, I learned my lesson betting against Great Britain, so I'm not going to bet against them in this race. And then right after that, it's really interesting. It's going to be not even the middle of the pack, but you're going to have the succession horses, 5, 6, and 7, I think is what you're going to see coming around down the home stretch. 5, Legend of Time. 7, Stay Hot. Stay Hot is 10-1 right now, but has also won 4 of its last 5. And then you've got the 6-horse Neat, which is 4 for 4 on the turf. So you can't beat that. I do like the 10-horse Set out of New York with Jose Ortiz at 10-1. But this is one of those races that we were talking about. 14 in the field. We've got 1, 2, 3 that are less than 10-1.
Yeah. Wide open. At the bottom, at least. I think the top, not so much. For For myself, let me find one horse that definitely does jump out to me, and I'm starting to get a little worried that this is now the third horse starting from the post position of 14, and I'm giving a lot of credit to Irad Ortiz, who deserves it, don't get me wrong, but I really do like Agate Road. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but ran very, very well in the Louisiana Derby. Obviously
horse.
didn't win that race, but the Louisiana Derby is probably one of the top Derby prep races. So once again, if you run very well in that race, you're probably racing a little later in the day in the Derby. So keep an eye there at 5-1. I think there is plenty of value. Once again, post position, a bit of an issue, but if anyone's going to kind of save me from that, it will be Irad Ortiz. Let me see. The other horse that I do have is the 5-horse Legend of Time. As you kind of said, Great Britain is there. We got Frankie Dettori and Charles Appleby. If any horse or if any trainer can go from Europe to North America or vice versa, it's going to be Charlie Appleby. He is, we see him a lot at Breeders' Cup weekend. Obviously, you know, with the Derby and Oaks being on the dirt, it's not, he pretty much only has turf horses, but anytime you see his name on a turf, you better be ready to see how that horse goes. This horse has won 4 out of its last 5 and its last 3. And they were all ungraded stakes races, or actually it looks like a few allowance races. I'm not quite sure how UAE does it, so I'm not going to quote myself too much on that, but very, very strong horse at 7-2. We'll probably need to get some more value for it to get onto my ticket, but definitely keep an eye there. And the final horse I do want to talk about, this is a pure value pick. It is the 2-horse Tricari, pure value, looking for a return to form from the run back at Gulfstream Park. It was back in February, ran in 81. Even will need to improve on that. But that was a sprint. So once again, you know, 15, that's probably why it's 15-1. But I do think with Respolia aboard, might be a value pick with Tricari, the 2-horse there. This is, I think, as we said, just kind of a 2 to maybe 3-horse race. Going to kind of figure out whether or not that post position really, really does matter for the 14-horse when it's all said and done. But we get closer to the Derby. That was our final grade 2. We're going to be talking about 3 straight grade 1s coming now, starting with the race number 10, Churchill. It is the grade 1 Churchill Downs Stakes. We are going 7 furlongs for 4-year-olds and up. I'll get this one started. The number 4 horse is the first horse that definitely does jump out to me. I think this horse is massively undervalued at 6-1. 2 out of its last 3 runs have been in the hundreds. Now, for me to go back to that, you know, run in the New Orleans Classic, it was all the way back into last March. So only 3 runs in essentially the last, 14 months. Not ideal. But I do think this horse has the speed. Last time out, ran a 102. And why that is important to me, this was a horse that was running at a mile plus. They decided, you know what, let's see what this horse can do. On the sprint side of things, ran 6 furlongs, ran a 102, best of its career. I like that. Now we are stretching out a bit to 7 furlongs, but this is a horse that ran very well at a mile plus, and it's 6-1. I do like Mr. Wireless a lot. Another horse I'm keeping an eye on is the 3 Technique. It's very, very consistent. I do love consistent horses. Lives in the 90s. However, we'll need to get back to that May run of last year at Churchill, where this horse put a 98 on the board. It was an optional claiming, so you do have to kind of take an eye on that. But if this horse can get back into the high 90s, I think at 10-1, it's worth a look for you. Definitely some value there. And finally, last horse I do kind of want to talk about, maybe not overall, but I think it's the favorite as I go through it. It's Zozos at 3-1. Yes, it does 7-2. I'm not very good at math. Okay, so maybe Hoist the Gold is the favorite, but Zozo's definitely getting a lot of love from the morning line odds makers. Interesting to me, but for this horse has kind of been trending in the wrong direction for me. We go back to last July. This horse finished with a 101 in an ungraded stakes race. and then got bumped up to the grade threes and even ran in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Well, a 93, a 98, and a 77, respectfully. And one of those was a ACK win, which was great. That's a big win. However, last time out in that Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, a 77. That's going to definitely need to improve in this one. And once again, a very, very long layoff for Zozos. But just some thoughts there. Raider Jim, your thoughts on the Grade 1 Churchill Downs Stakes?
Yeah, this is going to be a great race. A smaller field, only 11 horses, not 20, not 17. But the horse that I think is primed, primed based on the most recent past performance, and everybody's got to have their breakthrough moment on the stage or wherever. Number 2 horse, Tejano Twist. I think Tejano Twist at 4-1 is good value. Irad Ortiz didn't get the rail, which is good. Didn't get stuck on the outside, which is good. Watch Tejano Twist. I think they're going to be able to break the trend of coming in second and finally get into that winner's circle on the big race. Like you, I feel the same way about Zozos. Months back, would have been my favorite, would have been my first pick. Not this time around. I actually have Tejano Twist followed by 11, Hoist the Gold. Zozos is actually tied for the bottom of my ticket to switch them around. 6 horse Zozo with the number 4 horse, Mr. Wireless. Those are the ones that I think are going to make the impact and finish in the money in this race. And I'm not going to be surprised if we don't see Mr. Wireless, really challenge down the stretch and win or even get the place position.
Yeah, I really do like that Mr. Wireless pick, especially considering you brought him up as well. It's kind of vindication. But yeah, it's Zozo's for me. I'd love to see this horse kind of return to form. It's just one of those
Yes.
things where you're kind of paying to see if he wants to return to form. I prefer to pay other things. And if Zozos goes out and gets the job done, fantastic, gets itself back in position. But once again, I just don't want to pay to see that happen. But moving on to our second to last race we are going to be covering on this episode. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. This is going to be the Grade 1 Turf Classic Stakes. We are going 1.125 miles on the turf. This is going to be for 4-year-olds and up. A cool $1 million on the line. Raider Jim, your thoughts on the Turf Classic Stakes?
Yeah, you got into my head a couple races ago because I wasn't even thinking about it, but you said, I'm falling into a trap. I'm falling into a trap. And sure enough, here I am picking number 11, Naval Power, the horse on the outside, Frankie De La Torre, Charlie Appleby at 7-2. They're the favorite, but I'm telling you, that's a great spot for those two. And I do think at 7-2, they're a favorite for a reason, and they're going to come home and bring it home. But I also like the 5 horse. Program Trading, another Great Britain horse, Flavian Pratt, Chad Brown at 9-2, not bad value, not bad value at all, and definitely will you'll see them approaching down the stretch and challenging for the finish line. Also like number 1, the horse on the rail, Integration, Tyler Gaffalone's on that one at 5-1, also very good value for that. And then there's 2 other horses. I'm going to keep an eye on the numbers and see how they start moving. One is Farbridge with Jose Ortiz running out of the 4 position right now at 8-1. And then you've got the 6 horse, I'm Very Busy, Irad Ortiz at 4-1. And actually, I'm going to probably give a lot more consideration and lean towards that horse because at currently at 4-1, in the 6th spot in an 11 position race, I really like that now that I'm looking at it again and saying it aloud. So Naval Power, Program Trading, the 5 horse, number 1 Integration, probably going to switch that up and move I'm Very Busy to more of a consideration on my ticket.
Yeah, I love the trajectory of Integration. We talked about Zozos maybe trending in the wrong direction. Well, Integration's trending in the right direction. Last 4 runs going all the way back to last September in I think that's the Virginia Derby, 96 and then 98, 98, 100. And then you just kind of look at the steps in those races. That Virginia Derby, grade 3, then a grade 2, and then back-to-back grade 1s. Didn't get in the winner's circle. Once again, though, when you're running at grade 1s, it's sometimes you do have to you can't fall in love with the winner's circle. Obviously, you want to find it, but if this horse was winning at grade 1s, it wouldn't be 5-1, and it wouldn't have caught my attention like it did. I think there's a lot of value there, especially with Tyler Gaffleone aboard. The 5 horses you kind of mentioned, program trading, just have to take advantage of these, or take into account these British horses coming over on turf. I mean, we see it every Breeders' Cup. It's almost like I don't want to say world war, but it's kind of like that battle of the continents, if you will, the continental clash, the Brits versus the Americans on the turf. And program trading is kind of one of the main ones, at least and then this horse was, bred in Great Britain, now really races with Chad Brown here in the States, but still 9-2, very, very consistent. I mean, the last 4 runs, 94, 95, 94, 94. Going to want to bottle that and continue to do that, just like this horse has. You all brought up, I'm very busy. I do like that horse a lot. I do wonder about the value, though. One horse to keep an eye on, let me just make sure I didn't miss anyone. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Naval Power. Definitely another horse just like you that is going to be on my list. The one thing I like about Naval Power, this is a horse that's been running in, Great Britain, ran at Ascot, Newmarket. Well, the last 2 runs have been at Maiden. I think that's how you pronounce it. About out in the United Arab Emirates, and 2 runs this year, but then came back to Keeneland in April. Just maybe a little bit of I don't want to say a refresher, or maybe an introduction to North America. How'd it run in the Maker's Mark Mile? Oh, just ran a 104 and got the win at 6-1. So, or no, excuse me, I have that wrong. It did not win that one, but still, finished second, excuse me, to Master of the Seas, which I believe we talked about earlier. So yeah, Naval Power finished second in its native or North American debut, running a 104 Maker's Mark Mile. That's one of the big races of the year. So I do like that a lot. Now I get to my the one horse that really does jump out to me, that I think can really do something, and it's 10-1. It's the 7 horse. Javier Castellano is going to be aboard, Web Slinger. So horse, I'm a big fan of consistency, 93, 96, 96 in its last 2 runs. The I'm very busy situation, unfortunately, has not beaten I'm very busy, has not beaten program trading. So there are going to be some demons to exercise for Web Slinger. However, at 10-1, I'll pay to see how this horse runs. Mark Cassie as well. Good trainer there. This is a very, very wide open race. I mean, my top horse here is 5-1. So I love the value in this race. I think it might just be a situation of trying to trim the field to get your ticket to those 3 or 2 horses, or 1. However you want to build your ticket, it might be that hardest part of just kind of figuring out who doesn't make the cuts. But with that being said, time to move on to the main event. Look, all of your friends who probably aren't big horse racing fans, you tell them, I'll give you $5 if you can name 1 horse race. It's going to be the Kentucky Derby that they can name. It is a $5 million purse, not the richest in North America. That'll be at Del Mar later in the year at the Breeders' Cup Classic. But obviously, we have the Kentucky Derby. These are for 3-year-olds only, going 1.25 miles on the dirt. Raider Jim, your thoughts on the 150th Kentucky Derby?
Well, I get fixated on things, and this is my theme this year that I've already talked about. 20 horses, 20 entries in this field. Here's how it breaks down. You're going to have 3 entries that are going to be better than 10-1. You have 2 that are going to go off or currently the morning line is 10-1. After that, you have 3 entries at 50-1, 4 at 30-1, and 8 at 20-1. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
I think maybe we see more 50-1s than normal, but I feel like it's kind of par for the course with the Derby. We spend 3 weeks kind of getting this all ready, and we fall in love with 4 horses, and it seems like all the money goes there. So it's like you have those 4 horses that are, you got your favorite, your second favorites, maybe about 4-1. Third and fourth favorites are about 6 and 8-1 respectfully. And then everyone else is 10, 12, 15. And then you get nutty with a, 45 to 50 to, stuff like that. This is the one I always call it the sports almanac race. If you can find a 20+1, go back in your, Back to the Future. Don't go and find, your parents or anything like that. Just find a sports almanac, bring it with you into the future, and you'll know. Or you go back to the past in this case. I'd love to find some value here, but I just think the favorites are so much better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. And I can understand, with all due respect to some of these, and that's difficult because some of these horses, I'm just going to pick the first 50-1 that I see. Let's see. Yeah. Like, so West Saratoga, for example, look, it's top run on dirt. Well, look, it ran an 81 in its maiden debut, but when you look at some of the other, you kind of understand why this horse is 50-1. I think a lot of these horses are purse chasing, like I said. A lot of these horses, I love the Kentucky Derby, and part of the allure of the Kentucky Derby is 20 horses. I would love for this race to be like capped at 10 or 12. I don't know. Just for the sake of the sport, I understand it's crazy, and that's part of the allure of it, but I always hold my breath when the race starts, especially on, on a maybe a bit of a muddy track, which we may have. It's just so chaotic in that when they have to bring in the second starting gate, for me, that's when I'm just like, oh, here we go. Oh, this is a little too much. Like, I just want to see you all get to the quarter mile part. I get a little nervous in the beginning, but those are my thoughts on it.
Well, I'll start out with the long shot first. If you are looking for that, oh my gosh, did you see that race on Saturday moment? You might want to look on that horse on the outside, Society Man, ridden by Frankie De La Torre at 50-1. Might be the next Mind That Bird. You never know. It's happened before. It can happen again. And wow, that horse has shown some promise, and he definitely has the right person on the reins. So there, if you want to put a long shot ticket down, there's your chance. But who do I think is going to win the race? A lot of people think that 17 Fierceness is going to win the race. Even the handicappers who early morning line have Fierceness at 5-2. But I still think, with this 110 buyer under his belt and all that, Sierra Leone, that number 2 horse, is just a force to be reckoned with. And I think it could be a real match race coming down the home stretch. But watch Sierra Leone. Fierceness could even get upset by the 8 horse, Just a Touch, Florent Giroux, Brad Cox. And at 10-1, you've got good value on that horse, as you will with Catching Freedom, Flavian Pratt and Brad Cox at 8-1. Either one of those 2 horses could really make for an interesting ticket. So I've got 2 Sierra Leone going to the winner's circle. After that, I think I've got 17, 8, and 4 in any combination.
Yeah, I'm leaning the same way. Look, Fierceness, goodness gracious. You want to fall in love with a horse, go watch the Florida Derby. That was outside of Flightline's Breeders' Cup, or maybe any Flightline race. But that might have been the most dominant I've seen a horse, especially at that level, because Florida Derby, I mean, that is, I would say, the preeminent Derby prep race. And it won by 13.5 lengths. As you mentioned, that 110 buyer. My problem here is, and then we go back to last year, Santa Anita. It ran the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And last year, I believe it was Forte who had a chance to be one of the few winners of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile into a Derby. And of course, I believe that horse scratched last year. But Fierceness in between the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the Florida Derby. It ran at Gulfstream Park, and it came off at, I believe, 4-5, 4-1, or no, excuse me, 1-4, something like that, 1-5. And it finished in 3rd place, 4 lengths off the lead. I don't know about that inconsistency. I don't know. I don't want to get caught up on that. I also really do not like, and I know I'm all about the 14 or whatever it was, post position, but 17 post position, that is a whole nother animal. So I am giving the slight nod to Sierra Leone in this one. Sierra Leone checks the boxes of consistency for me. And I don't know if you saw the price of this horse at the yearling auction, Raider Jim, but $2.3 million this horse sold for at yearling auction. That is the most, and just for me,
Wow.
that's the most I've ever seen. I didn't do the research on what the most is. Might be more, but this is a horse that has a ton of promise. So we kind of got the big ones out of the way. And I'm right there with you on Society Man. I think at 50 to 1, this might be the best value of any 50 to 1 horse ever. This horse came off at 107 to 1. I want to go back. I'm gonna have to try and find like the payout for the Wood Memorial. This horse finished second place at 107 to 1. I can only imagine what that payout would have been, or was, I should say. But that 20 post position, very difficult. But I mean, if you're going to find a 50 to 1 shot, how about one that just ran a heck of a race at 107 to 1? And then some other ones as I go through. I like the 12 horse Track Phantom. This is a horse that's been consistently moving in the right direction. Was within only a half a length of Sierra Leone in the Risen Star there, and was 3 to 1 in that one. So there have been a lot of expectations for Track Phantom. I think at 20 to 1, a ton of value there with Joel Rosario and Steve Asmussen teaming up there. I've been a big fan of the 11 horse Forever Young, really since we recorded, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, the kind of early Derby prep. It's a horse that's undefeated. It's a Japanese horse. And I figure at some point, I think Domo Sotogake last year might
Yeah.
have been a horse that, and I'm probably butchered that name, that was kind of, maybe is this the one for Japan? I think Forever Young's got a chance to be that one. And a few others. Well, I actually only have one other big time upset horse, and that's the 9 horse Encino. Last time it made its debut on the turf was pretty much running on the artificial turf, and was kind of, was improving, but needed to get a lot better. Ran in the Lexington at 3 to 1 and looked very good. Put up a 94. 20 to 1. I like that. I also really do like the pedigree of Nyquist being the sire. And of course, you got Brad Cox, who, once again, if Encino comes in and Brad Cox has the weekend he expects, like I said, he could be the mayor of that place by the end of it. The Kentucky Derby, I'm probably going to put some money on Sierra Leone. And I really do like Track Phantom and Forever Young, but this is a race that I just want to kind of sit back and enjoy. Obviously 20 races or 20 horses. Wow. Raider Jim, any final thoughts on the Derby or final thoughts overall as we wrap this one up?
What a fun couple of days it's getting ready to be. And for all of those who might hear this, and remember, this is the West Coast time for that race 5 that kicks off all the big Kentucky Oaks races, is going to be 9:43 Pacific Standard Time. And then they will just continue through the day. So keep an eye on that. NBC, as always, is going to be doing the major coverage on Saturday for the Kentucky Derby. But I am just looking forward to it. This is it's right up there with March Madness.
Amen. This is, I mean, we talked about 13 races. And even then, I always talk about 90 minutes is our goal. We did go over. I do appreciate everyone sticking around for that. I kind of hear my voice going right now, but that's just what Derby weekend does. I mean, we'll have the same thing happening with the Breeders' Cup in a few months. But this is the beginning of horse racing season in earnest, to be honest. This is kind of where all the eyes start to focus on this. And for me, I think as much as I want to win every bet, we all know that's not going to happen. The one thing that I really do want to see is I want us to come out of this weekend, everyone happy, everyone healthy, all the horses, maybe didn't
Every
perform to
horse
the way
safe.
they wanted to go, but everyone leaves happy and healthy. And we move on to the Preakness in a few weeks. But that's my big goal. That's my main concern. especially with the weather on Friday. It's always a little tricky. But for me, it's been just want to make sure everything goes well. Not just the races we talked about, every single race, whether it's a maiden special weight, everywhere throughout the country. Obviously, just want to make sure everyone gets through every day these races happily and healthy. But with that being said, oh yes, sir.
And this is not a snarky remark. This is not intended to be a shot across anybody's bow. For all those who do like to put a couple bucks down on the races, and you want to look outside of Churchill Downs, this would be your weekend. You want to see where Baffert has entries,
Yeah.
because Baffert's going to be going for the gold.